Most people overpay for car insurance, not because they're careless, but because switching feels like too much hassle. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. Well, first of all, happy 4th of July, everyone. And since we're on the topic of American independence and Revolutionary War, well, on April 5th, 1869, a man named Daniel Frederick Bakeman died in Freedom, New York. He was 109 years old. The obituaries noted the usual things: a long life, a quiet end, survived by family. They also noted something that no obituary would ever need to note again. Bakeman was the last surviving veteran of the American Revolutionary War. When he died, the living memory of the revolution, the men who had actually been there, who had heard the muskets, felt the cold at Valley Forge, watched the world's most powerful empire retreat from a ragged colonial army, died with him. The thread that connected 1869 to 1776 finally snapped, and almost nobody noticed. Our history brief today returns to History is Weird and why Romans wrote curses on lead tablets. A quick word from our sponsors.
Summer is here. At Orderly Meds, we know this time is a reminder that life is full of new beginnings. Whether you're celebrating the nice weather, starting a new chapter, planning a vacation, or simply looking ahead to what's next, this season can be the perfect time to invest in yourself and your health. If you've struggled with weight loss and are curious about GLP-1 medications, Orderly Meds can help you learn about your options. Through a simple virtual process, you can connect with licensed medical professionals who can determine whether treatment may be appropriate for you. Getting started is fast, convenient, and happens online from the comfort of home. This summer, consider a new approach to feeling your best. Visit orderlymeds.com/podcast to learn more. That's orderlymeds.com/podcast. orderlymeds.com/podcast. Because every new season is an opportunity to take the next step forward. Compounded medications are not FDA approved. Eligibility required and determined by a licensed provider. Individual results may vary. See website for details.
This day in history. On July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress formally adopted the Declaration of Independence, announcing to the world that the 13 colonies were now free and independent states. On July 4th, 1826, exactly 50 years later, both Thomas Jefferson and John Adams died within hours of each other. The remarkable coincidence linked two of America's founding fathers forever to the nation that they helped create. Story of the day. Daniel Frederick Bakeman was born in 1759. George Washington was 27 years old. The French and Indian War was still being fought. The Declaration of Independence was 17 years in the future. The United States actually did not yet exist. Bakeman was born into a world in which everything that Americans would later consider foundational, the Revolution, the Constitution, the Republic itself, had not yet happened. He lived long enough to see Abraham Lincoln assassinated. He lived long enough to see the Transcontinental Railroad completed. He lived long enough that the war he had fought as a teenager had passed through living memory into legend, into history, and into mythology. And he was still alive. The details of Bakeman's service are by necessity very sparse. He was young when he served, a boy, really, in the way that many revolutionary soldiers were boys. The Continental Army and the various state militias that fought alongside it were not discriminating institutions when it came to age. They just needed men, so they took what they could get. Bakeman served in a New York militia unit. The specifics of where he fought, what he saw, and what the war meant to him personally, well, that's all lost to history. He was not a general, he was not a statesman. He left no memoir, nor correspondence, no record of his inner life. He was just a private soldier, one of the anonymous thousands who did the actual fighting, while the men whose names we do remember did all the deciding. After the war, he did what most veterans do. He went home. He farmed, he married, he raised a family in upstate New York and lived the quiet, unglamorous life of a rural American in the early Republic. And then he grew old. By the time the 19th century was well underway, the veterans of the Revolution had become objects of national veneration. The last survivors were sought out by journalists, by politicians, by a public increasingly aware that the men who had made the country were disappearing one by one. The pension rolls told the story in numbers. In 1818, Congress passed the first major Revolutionary War Pension Act. Tens of thousands of veterans were still alive. By 1840, the number had fallen to a few thousand. By 1860, 84 years after the Declaration of Independence, it was down to just a handful. Each death was noted, each one reduced by one the number of people on Earth who carried in their bodies the lived experience of the America's founding. Bakeman outlasted all of them. He was not famous for most of his life. Fame found him only at the very end, when the actuarial mathematics of survival had whittled the list down to just one. When the census takers and pension officials and newspaper reporters finally caught up to him in Freedom, New York, they found a very old man, blind, nearly deaf, dependent on his family for basic care, who had outlived his wife, outlived his children, outlived his entire generation and the generation after it, and the generation after that, actually. He had been born before the United States existed. He had watched the country he helped create celebrate its first centennial just 3 years before his death. 100 years. He had been alive for all of it. Congress, to its credit, eventually took notice. In 1867, 2 years before his death, the federal government granted Bakeman a pension of $500 a year, a belated recognition of his service rendered nearly 90 years earlier. President Ulysses S. Grant, himself a veteran who understood something about the weight of war, sent a personal message of acknowledgement. It was a gesture, a decent one at that. But gestures are what nations offer when they have run out of time to do anything more substantial. When Bakeman died in April of 1869, something genuinely irreplaceable ended. Not just a life, but a category of human being. There would never again be a person alive who had fought in the American Revolution. The war that created the United States had passed entirely out of living memory. Every American alive after April 5th, 1869, would know the revolution only through documents and paintings and stories, the way that we know ancient Rome or medieval England, as history, not as memory. There is something America has always done with its founding generation. It has made them marble. The founders, Washington, Jefferson, Adams, Hamilton, they have been transformed over 2 centuries into something closer to myth than just men. Serene, visionary, inevitable. The actual revolution, the cold, the hunger, the desertion, the near collapse, the boys who fought it and came home to farms and obscurity, and lives that history books never recorded. All of that gets lost in the glow of the mythology. Daniel Frederick Bakeman spent 90 years being nobody in particular, a farmer, a veteran, an old man in upstate New York. Then he spent his last few years being the last one. And then he was gone. And the country moved on, as countries do. But somewhere between the marble founders and the mythology of the revolution, there were thousands of Daniel Bakemans. Boys who fought, men who came home, old men who outlived everything that they knew. The last one died in Freedom, New York in the spring of 1869. His name was Daniel Frederick Bakeman. The history brief. Imagine you're living in the Roman Empire. Someone steals your cloak. A rival beats you in court. Your favorite chariot race team loses because you suspect the other team's driver cheated. So, what do? If you're a Roman, you might not call the police. You might instead write a curse, not on paper, on a thin sheet of lead, and then bury it underground. Welcome to one of the strangest practices of the ancient world, the curse tablet. Known by historians, these were small pieces of lead inscribed with requests for supernatural revenge. Thousands have been discovered across the former Roman Empire, from Britain to North Africa. And the things people complained about sound surprisingly familiar. Some curses targeted thieves. One Roman victim wrote a curse against whoever stole his cloak and asked the gods to deny the thief health, sleep, and happiness until the item was finally returned. Others focused on love. Rejected lovers sometimes asked the gods to make a desired person fall hopelessly in love with them, or to prevent a rival relationship from succeeding. And then there were sports fans. Ancient Roman chariot racing inspired levels of devotion that make modern sports rivalries kind of look tame. Some curse tablets specifically targeted opposing drivers and horses, asking divine powers to make them crash, stumble, or lose races. Imagine betting on the Super Bowl and then burying a magical curse against the opposing quarterback. That's kind of what this was. The process could be surprisingly elaborate. People would scratch names and requests into lead sheets, sometimes folding or rolling them up before placing them in graves, temples, wells, or sacred springs. Many believe these locations brought the message closer to gods, spirits, and underworld powers, capable of carrying out the curse. Some tablets even included drawings of bound figures with their arms and legs tied, symbolically trapping the victim. And before you assume that this was only practiced by the uneducated, well, then think again. Cursed tablets have been found across all levels of Roman society. Wealthy individuals, merchants, soldiers, athletes, and ordinary citizens all seem to have participated. Why, you may ask? Well, because the Roman world could feel deeply uncertain. Courts weren't always fair. Property wasn't always protected. Life could be quite unpredictable. When official systems failed, some people looked for supernatural solutions. In a strange way, curse tablets served a psychological purpose. They gave people a sense of control. If someone wronged you and there was nothing you could do about it legally, you could still write a curse and feel like justice might eventually be served. And that's kind of what makes this modern. No, we don't usually scratch revenge messages into lead sheets and bury them in sacred wells. But people still vent online. They still complain about rivals. They still hope karma catches up with someone who wronged them. The technology has definitely changed, but the emotions most certainly have not. So the next time someone says ancient people were completely different from us, remember this. 2,000 years ago, a Roman sports fan was probably blaming a bad loss on the other team, writing an angry message, and asking higher powers to intervene. Some things never change. I know, history's weird. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you're enjoying this show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both of those links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. Also, don't forget to check out our YouTube channel where we have different videos and series that are not part of this main feed. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.